Hey everybody, it's Jason and welcome to the Thermostat Podcast. However you're coming to the podcast today, welcome in. So glad you're here. On today's podcast, I'm joined by my friend and CBS analyst Clark Kellogg as we put together this special Final Four edition of the Thermostat Podcast. We're talking about the NCAA Tournament, March Madness, what's happened so far this year, previewing the Final Four, but more importantly, we're talking about the lessons that play out in front of our faces every single year. In front of our eyes, we see lessons around leadership and culture, teams, adversity, belief, execution, all of these things that play out in front of our eyes. So I hope you'll enjoy today's episode with Clark Kellogg, this special March Madness Final Four episode. Welcome back to the Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everybody, it's Jason and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. Today we've got a very special quick podcast. We're doing a Final Four edition of March Madness podcast. We thought that the timeliness of this, we'd have a chance to just grab a few minutes to talk about the tournament. Many of you know that I love basketball. I love talking about the lessons that are learned in March Madness that play out right in front of our eyes every single time we watch this. I return to this every single year and be reminded of the lessons around leadership and culture and handling adversity and pressure and teamwork and culture, all the stuff that we talk about on this podcast. So excited to have my friend and CBS analyst Clark Kellogg jumping in. He, of course, has been covering the tournament intimately to this point, and I thought we might just catch on here for a few minutes and chat some hoops, but also the lessons that it reminds us of beyond, basketball, for life, for business, for work, for relationships. Clark, how's the tournament been so far, buddy?
It never disappoints, Jason. Good to be with you. It's always going to deliver, and it has been for decades. I mean, the human interest stories, the excitement, the dramatic finishes, the blowouts. I mean, we've had a great blend of everything that we've come to enjoy and appreciate about March Madness. I mean, the first 2 weeks have been terrific. We've got a really good Final Four group set up with UConn, who's won 2 of the last 3 national championships. We've obviously got Illinois looking to get its first program championship. And then you've got Michigan and Arizona. Arizona and Michigan both have won titles in the past, have been the 2 most dominant teams, I think, all year long when you look at how they played and how they've won. So it's going to be quite a weekend in Indianapolis.
No, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I think we've got an amazing matchup of teams, and I think they're going to be some really compelling games as this tournament's just been amazing so far. I think it's had a little bit of everything. I hate comparing years because as I think your language that you've used in the past is this, it's a mosaic, it plays out differently each year. And there's such beauty in that. So I don't like comparing the years, but I'll just say this year, man, we've had everything. We've had some underdogs, the high points that have surprised people. You've also had these amazing finishes. You've had these compelling matchups. So I think it's just been awesome so far.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And again, I always go in eyes wide open, anticipating a thrill and not knowing where they're going to come from, where the stories are going to emerge, which teams are going to rise up to the moment. And it's not always the teams that get to the Final Four. It's sometimes the teams like High Point. Flynn Kaman, the coach, really made a statement with how his team played and how he felt about being a mid-major. I mean, so that was one of the highlights. What Kentucky was able to do against a very game Santa Clara team, I mean, that was some kind of dramatic finish with Otega-Owe scoring that bucket at the end to force overtime, and they prevailed. Michigan's been dominant in spite of the injury to a key cog in its team, LJ Case. And I did not see Michigan continuing to play at the level they played at with his absence. And yet they've been there or maybe even exceeded it because other guys have risen to the forefront. And that team is on a mission. And it'll be a fun watch to see how they in Arizona play it out. And then obviously, most recently, the last game of the Elite Eight weekend, you have a game where everybody had moved Duke forward, including me, and yet UConn wouldn't go away. You have a dramatic ending, an iconic shot that'll be part of the mosaic of promos for years to come. Braylon Mullins off the turnover. And that was 3 of 16 points that UConn scored off turnovers, I believe, in the second half to come back from 19 down. So there were a lot of plays that led to UConn being able to come back. Obviously, that's the one that will be most replayed and remembered. And the other side of that is Caden Boozer makes a pass that if it gets completed, Duke is in the Final Four. I mean, it's that thin. That's the other thing about this. It's that thin. The agony of defeat and the thrill of victory, they're on the same coin, and it's a thin line between whether you sometimes get to the thrill side or deal with the agony side.
Yeah, no doubt. And as very well said, and as you and I have talked about even on this podcast in the past, this is called the Thermostat podcast, based off of my book, Thermostat Cultures. And so we talked about this through the lens of these teams, and it's certainly when we talk about teams, I'm talking even beyond basketball, teams, organizations, groups of people that come together. And yet the identity of knowing how is it that we play together? What is that culture that we're trying to create? Which means they have an identity. They pull together in the midst of adversity. They set a temperature even when the temperatures around them are rising. I think about this year in some of the teams, and I'm wondering which ones jump out to you. But I'm picturing the calmness that Purdue played with down the stretch in that game against Texas. Trey Kaufman ran when he hit that game winner. I've never seen somebody so calm and just like this is what we do. I think about I was amazed. I never thought Iowa could play with Florida. And yet the discipline and commitment to that style of play, and just in the second half when it felt like Florida was getting momentum, and Iowa, I just kept hoping and thinking, okay, now they're going to have to change something, or Bennett Sturts is going to have to take more control. And yet they just stayed the course. And they made these plays down the stretch. And then, of course, the greatest example that you just referenced a minute ago was the UConn game the other night. I mean, Duke was getting everything they wanted, and they were in control of the game. At some point, I saw the win probability, was at 98.7%. And yet UConn just kept hanging in there. And the culture of just, we're not going to give up. I'm wondering, are there teams that rise to your mind when you think about this tournament and that kind of thermostat culture kind of team?
Yeah, you've highlighted the ones that stood out to me as well, Jason, quite honestly. I mean, one of the reasons I picked Purdue on Selection Sunday to win it all, some of it was sentimental, but some of it was the benefit they had of experience.
But before we dive into that topic, let's take a break. Let's pause for a second, and we'll be right back. Many teams and organizations right now are realizing that they need to do both. They need to engage the minds and hearts of their people in person, where everyone in the room can experience the energy of congregating together and find clarity for the road ahead. And they also need to continue to find ways to engage the minds and hearts of their people virtually, with those who are working remotely or at a distance. So, if you are in the process of planning your next team meeting, company all-hands event, conference or culture summit, and are looking for support with a powerful keynote speech, facilitated team conversations that are the currency for change, or deeper development on leadership mindset and an intentional strategy for the culture you're trying to create, I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon. I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon.
Well, Jason, quite honestly, I mean, one of the reasons I picked Purdue on Selection Sunday to win it all, some of it was sentimental, but some of it was the benefit they had of experience with their core group, that might serve them well. They were going to be outmatched against a team like Arizona, but we all know the best team doesn't always win this event.
That's right.
Because it's a one and done format. So because of that poise, that culture, that consistency, that experience that Purdue had, you saw it on display in that game against Texas, where they were able to find a way in a game where Texas probably wins that most of the time against most opponents because of how well they shot the ball and played. And yet Purdue stayed the course and got a good quality shot on that last possession when they needed to get it on the rim, just in case it didn't fall, to provide the opportunity for the tip in. Iowa had the most surprising win of the tournament, not because they won. We know there are upsets, but how they won. They beat Florida at Florida's game. They dominated the paint, were even on the backboards, and that being even in the rebounding game was really a plus 15 for Iowa on the boards because Florida had out-rebounded all of its opponents by 15 rebounds a game. So you stay even with them and keep them from a lot of second shots. And that's what Iowa did. They got into them. They were physical. They were tough. I didn't see that level of physicality by observing Iowa from afar. I might have picked up on it. I might have picked up on it if I had seen them in person a couple of times. It reminded me of the Butler teams that made it back to the Final Four back-to-back years, 2010 and 11. The only difference for me personally was I had been close to that Butler team, and I was telling everybody, they were talking about Butler can't do it. But I said, Butler has the talent and the physicality to play with anybody, which you wouldn't know unless you were in the gym with them, how physical they were in screening and cutting and defending and going after rebounds. And that's what I saw from that Iowa team that was really jaw-dropping. But And they didn't show, they were fairly up and down during the year. They weren't overwhelming in the games they won, steady and solid. But again, there's a reset that always starts come tournament time. And they played, I thought, their best basketball in the tournament and got all the way to the Elite Eight as a result.
Yeah, no, I was amazed and the physicality, but the fight that they came into that game with, which again, I just thought their dedication and discipline to stay the course in the plan and not panic. Actually, and your reference of Butler, that harpens back to the first time we ever even met. I think I reminded you of this one time that we met for the first time at the Final Four in Houston years ago when Butler was in one of those Final Fours, and I dropped the name Ronald Norad on you as a key player, and you looked at me like, wait, how do most fans aren't focusing in on he's been in the news recently. Congrats to Ronald, by the way, for getting a coaching job. But I think about, and he's a great example of this, but there were also thermostat players. There are players, and Ronald Norad, back in the day for Butler, is an example of those kind of glue guys, those under-the-radar players. I mean, for this year, I think about some of those under-the-radar guys. Dylan Mitchell at St. John's just did so many things and didn't always get celebrated, but was that kind of player. I think about David Mirkovic, who is becoming now more of a household. Of a star,
but
But I have loved his game all year long for Illinois and watched all the stuff that he does for that team. I think about Ivan Karchenkov at Arizona and the stuff that he does. So there are those glue guy kind of players behind the scenes. When you think about any team or organization in the world, you have to have those types of players. And then also I think about the star players in this tournament. So back to Iowa and Bennett Sturts, but the way that he has at the biggest moment, he didn't force his shot. but had the wherewithal and the trust to pass the ball. I think about in the UConn the game the other night, Alex Caravan, the star, the celebrated senior, Mr. Captain America, all the stuff, and catches the ball, and yet trusts to pass back to the freshman who's got a better look.
Yeah.
And so I think about those thermostat players. Are there others that jump out to you this year? That come to mind in watching this tournament?
Yeah, guys that may not get the recognition they deserve, may not get top billing on the marquee. I call them value utility players because they provide utility and great value, and it may not be in the most glaring way on the stat sheet. You mentioned Karchenkov at Arizona, but Toby Awaka, who comes off the bench and does a yeoman's job in his minutes of play. I think about Jaden Bradley, the starting point guard, who may very well win the Cousy Award as the top point guard in the country, but his numbers don't necessarily jump off the screen at you, but his presence, his tenacity, his willingness to step into the big moments, making big shots and big plays. He's done that consistently all year. You mentioned David Mirkovic at Illinois. But I think Stojakovic too, who's gaining some stardom but he's coming off the bench now. He was a starter
that's right.
most of the season, went through an injury, and basically I heard Brad Underwood talking about it yesterday on a podcast that it was by accident they stumbled into this rotation, in part because of the injury. It wasn't something that they designed, and sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, or misfortune is an opportunity to pivot into something that ends up being better than what you had originally. And that happens in organizations too. You lose a talented person on your team, and somebody else who's been under the radar but doing great work now gets a chance to step into a broader role, and you see ability and talent that you might not have seen otherwise. So it's seizing the moment. Right? It's being ready. It's being prepared. It's having a level of confidence and consistency and who you are and what you do, what your role is. And then when opportunity knocks, being ready to step into it with some confidence and some freedom. And you see that in spades during this tournament across the board. That's guys that haven't played extremely well, have struggled, end up producing at a high level in the biggest moments.
Yeah.
Hey, how about our guy from High Point? He made a bunch of threes, but the game winner was a 2-point field goal, and it was his only 2-point field goal of the season.
That's right.
Which is mind-blowing, So that kind of stuff unfolds, and we get a chance to see it and celebrate it and appreciate it and extrapolate it to our world in some way. There's some parallels that you talk about in regards to that. So yeah, those are all magical moments that make this as special as it is this time of the year.
Yeah, and I think sometime if you're up for it, we ought to dedicate a whole episode to talk about what you mentioned earlier too, of the agony, because you think about what Caden Boozer is going through right now, and everybody, of course, dreams for that one shining moment, and yet more times than not, there are the people that then leave this tournament with memories that are going to haunt them for years.
Yeah,
that's that, that's a whole episode in and of itself of just thinking about how we, from a mindset perspective, we have the courage and tenacity to go after something, and yet the understanding that nothing, it doesn't always go our way.
Yeah, and it can be painful when you come up short. It can be really painful. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. The other thing that I think about this tournament has, again, just highlighted to us again. These are all just reminders to us again that play out right in front of our faces, but is that coaching matters.
Yeah.
That coaching matters. This tournament, again, you watch. There's always decisions that anybody can second guess, and I'm certainly not. I'm not on this podcast. The spirit of it coming to pointing fingers or second guessing people, and yet there are coaching matters, decisions that are made on the fly, tactical things that are done or not done, and then you look back and say, "Oh my goodness, that might have just been what shifted the possibilities in it." Anything that comes to your mind when you just think about this tournament and just what we've seen. And I mean, we saw a masterclass by Ben McCollum in Iowa early on in the tournament. And then we've certainly seen some things along the way where, there's been some decisions made that you say that might have really hurt them.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I would look at it more from a broader perspective in terms of the coaching component. Me and Charles and Kenny have a running debate. They tend to give more weight on coaching than I do. I'm more of an 85%, 15% ratio player to coach.
Yep.
And on occasion, in some circumstances, I might lean 20% coaching, but I'm not going any higher than that on the coaching influence. And that's a significant piece. I think the coaching influence is more impactful in setting culture, in setting expectations, in holding teams accountable to standards and habits and expectations and preparation. And ultimately, when that's been done, I think that's where the coach really has his or her greatest impact. And then the tweaking of situational things is a smaller component because coaches have actually created or asked for certain execution and strategy, and the players don't do it.
That's right.
I mean, if in fact Todd Golden and his staff had talked about fouling on that last possession, how does Bennett Sturts come and catch the ball in a full sprint?
That's right.
When, if in fact you were going to foul, somebody needed to be making sure he caught the ball in front. So again, a coach probably, if in fact that was a mistake by a player or players, would not necessarily make that known publicly.
Right.
But that to me is where I think the players carry the bulk of the weight. I don't know what was told to Caden Boozer, but I'm of the mindset we always play aggressively. No matter what the situation. There were two of his teammates behind the defense.
Yep.
If he throws that ball over the defender's head, it's over. It's a wrap. So again, I don't know the specifics, but in a general sense, coaching does matter.
For sure.
I thought Michigan made a good adjustment in the second half of its game. I want to say against, it might have been Alabama. They were going up and down, and then ultimately just decided to go smash mouth and throw the ball. I mean, they still shot it well from inside, but it looked like they were much more intentional about taking the ball inside. And then Yaxel Lindeborg, who's a tremendously versatile and talented player, has been much more assertive. He's deferred a lot over the course of the year. He's led well. He's not always tried to be the high scorer. He's done other things. And these last couple of games, it looks like he said, well, you know what, I need to turn my dial up in assertiveness for the good of our team. And so those are things that you enjoy seeing unfold and happen across the tournament.
No doubt. And I think you nailed it, because the setting of the temperature and, hey, this is the culture of how we're going to show up. This is the strategy. This is all of that. And then players go execute, right?
Yeah.
And that and they set a temperature for how they show up, and to watch these players rising to the occasion has been terrific. I know you're on your way to Indy this week, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just give me the last thoughts around the Final Four. What do you see happening, and anything you hope for?
Yeah, clearly. I mean, Indianapolis is our second home. All three of our kids were born there, Jason. So we love being there when we have an opportunity. And I don't know of any place that does big events, sporting events, better than Indy. So I'm biased and excited. As far as the games, I'd love to see the Big Ten in the 25-year championship drought. I think the last time the Big Ten won was in Indianapolis in 2000 when Michigan State cut the nets down. And with two teams there, one on each side, I wouldn't mind seeing an all Big Ten final. Michigan's got its hands full with Arizona, and so does Illinois. But I think both teams have a good chance to prevail. And at that point, I'd even be okay if Michigan won it, being a Buckeye. But I'm
You're better
excited.
Than I am then.
I know I'm better than a lot of folks in my circle. I know that would be sacrilege to a lot of folks that are Buckeyes. But if it happened, I'd love to see the Big Ten be crowned as a champion, and we'll see if it plays out that way.
Yeah, I think Michigan has seemed like they are on a mission, and there's something happening there that seems special. As much as it pains us to admit, it is happening. But I've said all year that I think that from watching my at least analysis is I think Arizona has the most answers. I think they've got the most answers to the questions, and so that's going to be a battle. And then I've loved this Illinois team. I think that's going to be fun. So regardless, it's going to continue to be madness, and I hope it's a magical end. And again, then we get to just be reminded of all this stuff next year. So
that's right. Yeah,
buddy,
sure.
I love you taking time to jump on and share your wisdom. I love the spirit with which you bring to the game, the way that you prepare and everything. It's just I get a kick out of just talking hoops with you. So thanks.
No,
man.
it's a pleasure of mine too, Jason. Enjoy these last 3 games, and we'll crown a worthy champion on Monday night for sure.
All right. Well, listeners, thanks for joining in. I hope this gave you a little bit of fuel, some oxygen, and thinking about the temperature that you're trying to set in your life and your work. So thanks for being here, and thanks to Clark Kellogg again. Enjoy the madness. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.